But first, it all started as a protest against the Israeli president's visit to Australia. But after violent clashes with police in Sydney last night, protesters are right now gathering outside the police centre in the heart of the city, outraged at what they claim was police brutality. Our reporter Erin Ramsey was in the thick of the chaos as it erupted.
Please disperse out of the square. There is no authorised march.
Probably get arrested, but look, yes.
Police have tried to stop, they tried to create a barricade, but as you can see behind me, that barricade has been infiltrated. This tension is continuing to escalate and this crowd is going nowhere. Anything you'd like to say?
The cuffs are too tight.
What went wrong?
I'm not even part of the protest. I'm trying to get across and he smacked me in the face.
They pepper spray us in the crowd. Like, where do we live?
Really ugly scenes. Erin Ramsey is at the Sydney Police Centre for us now. I'm also joined by crime editor Simon Boda with me on the desk. Erin, I'll go to you first. What's the mood like at the protest there tonight compared to what unfolded last night? Because scenes are starting to get quite heated where you are now.
Well, Deb, the protest just wrapped up and it has been peaceful for the last hour and a half, but more than 1,000 protesters have now begun moving toward the Sydney Police Centre where police have formed a barricade. They've been here for the last few hours preparing for this moment. This crowd is angry and you can feel it right now. They're calling for all the charges to be dropped against the 9 people who were charged after last night's arrests. They're calling for police to take responsibility and you can just see behind me here how angry this group truly is.
And Erin, there's a huge police presence there as well.
There certainly is, and they've been at the ready for the last hour and a half, and just in the few seconds before we went to air, this scene unfolded. Everybody has come face to face with the police. We can see some people getting right up in their faces as well, but the police have prepared for this after last night. This is what they've been expecting. This is what they've been waiting for. Deb?
All right, Erin, thank you. Simon, to you. There is a lot of focus on the actions of police last night too. Did they go too far?
Deb, I've watched hours and hours of footage today, all through the day, and it was ugly, it was disturbing, but I don't think people should jump to conclusions too quickly. The police, in my opinion, acted in the responsive way that they should have. You've got to remember that these police officers had been there for hours. They were being taunted, tainted. They were being deliberately baited by the protesters. And I think the response was justified. And in my opinion, I think some of the police, most of the police, showed a lot of restraint.
We live in a democracy. We have a right to protest. Why did things get so ugly?
Well, what you've got to remember about what happened yesterday was the protesters, the Palestinian Action Group, were allowed to protest what they call a static protest in the grounds of Town Hall.
Weren't allowed to march.
They weren't allowed to march. They were offered that opportunity last week to march from Hyde Park down to Central Railway. They knocked that back. They chose to have the static protest inside the Town Hall precinct. Now, by them leaving that, the whole event was declared a major event, right? Now, that made it illegal, literally against the law, for them to march, to walk through the streets of Sydney as a coordinated group. So, in effect, the police were just enforcing the law that had been put in place to stop them marching.
And we are going to see similar protests in Canberra when the Israeli president visits Canberra, and in Melbourne as well. Do you expect that we'll see as much violence?
Look, Melbourne's got a bit of a reputation when it comes to protests and police conflict, and I suspect there will be violence there. There is not the same protest/march laws in Victoria, So the Premier down there has indicated that they're not going to ban any protests, which means there will be a march as well, and that's going to be on Thursday.
And the Israeli President will be meeting with the Prime Minister in Canberra tomorrow
as well. You know, so I think the police, the law enforcement authorities around the country, Sydney, Canberra and Melbourne, are now on very high alert as to what can happen. And their job is to protect this leader. And yesterday, if you look at, if the protests would have gone more chaotic and turned into a riot, just down the street, there were 7,000 members of the Jewish community who were mourning the 15 people they lost at Bondi.
Which is the reason why the President was invited here in the first place,
100%.
to offer that consolation.
So the police couldn't tell us that yesterday, but that was part of their reasoning to keep them apart, because if they didn't, you would have seen blood on the streets of Sydney last night.
And there are calls for an independent investigation into the police action. Do you think that's warranted?
Look, I think we've seen two particular bits of video that is concerning. One involved a man who was on the ground. He was being held on the ground by police. There were punches thrown.
Yeah.
There is an allegation that that man, who's been charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm, was biting one of those officers, had his teeth in his hand. That officer had to go to hospital. Then there was another incident where a man in a white shirt was punched by police. Now, he had tried to remove one of the bikes and had to be restrained. He was restrained the best way they saw how.
Yeah. Well, very disturbing scenes that unfolded.
They were.
Simon, thank you. And Erin, at that police process, thank you as well.